Okay, another Orc versus Undead. Semi-final time. After Walter just kicked KiwiKaki out of the tournament, we're seeing him here in this best of 3, the semi-final of the GenoZCup, all the way up to the top left. And up to the top right, we have his opponent. Using the account Wolves, it is actually Pride. And, well, let me just tell you that much. Pride wasn't really too happy when he saw that he would be up against Walter again, because these two have met in the past in this cup a few times, and so far Walter has the better track record here. Now, Walter, as I said before, has already reached the grand final of this tournament several times, and won it a few times too. So we're gonna find out today if the Orc player that we're currently watching here has a chance of taking it out, at least in this one. Again, Ancient of War a little bit farther towards the camp, very close to the mercenary camp right here. So with mercenary camps being on Twisted Meadows, again, if Keeper of the Grove as level 1 hero is going to be chosen, and I mean, duh, then you can at least try and maybe get one of those Forest Troll Shadow Priests, play around that, and have at least something that can dispel the Entangle. Because we've seen already in the previous game how much pressure you can actually apply if you have that. So for me personally, it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to have a different strategy executed on the side of Pride than we saw from KiwiKaki. The early Warmill here is already suggesting that we might see exactly that. Farsi as the first hero, and Walter actually getting even a little bit lucky here. The Wisp Scout coming in, and this is a 4-player map, but he immediately finds the position that his opponent spawns on. So he already knows what's up. And with barracks being built with Warmill, we could see headhunters again already. One Wisp in play, we have the first Archer in, and the first Archer is literally what you start the creep with. And this is a pretty big one too. Now the thing that we also have to point out is that at this point in time, the Orc also knows where Walter spawns. If you see that Wisp coming in from the left, you know exactly what's going on. And of course, well, Pride isn't a dummy. He kind of knows what you do when you're Nightelf, and he's already going cross-map? Did he not see the Wisp? Maybe he missed the Wisp. Yeah, he's actually going cross-map. He's scouting with the Wolves, sees now what's going on over here, and will change the way up to the top. So my bad, he must have missed the Wisp coming in from the side. If he would have seen it, then he would be immediately on his way up here. So far, we're having a bit of pressure onto that Archer, but that's going to be the main harass right now. Already in the inventory, Potion of Greater Mana and the Cloak of Shadows for the Keeper, and that's an early level 2, and look at that. Walter is a naughty boy. What did he just do? He just bought the Forest Troll Shadow Priest. Now when you have a mercenary camp, the players in the game share the cooldowns on the units that you can buy there. Meaning that right now, the Orc has no chance of buying himself a Forest Troll Shadow Priest. So that option to dispel Entangle is now gone. And it's actually pretty significant cooldown at that. So Walter basically just bought this, first of all, to have a bit of sustain for himself, since that priest can also heal. But at the same time, he did it so that his Keeper is going to have maximum efficiency. And that Potion of Greater Mana is all of a sudden allowing Walter to also think at least about a few different strategies. Since if you have that big of a mana pool, you can actually think about simply playing a lot more aggressive, and maybe even playing more around Treants, some a little bit more spec into that. You're a lot less likely to run out of mana if you can do that. And we have seen other races in the past with very strong pushes for exactly that reason. This spell also against the Spirit Wolf here didn't quite take it down, but it made sure that that Wisp didn't give any experience to the Orc, so Pride didn't really get anything out of this. Second Ancient of War is coming in, and we're seeing the Hunter's Hall as well. In the meantime, the Farseer, without any XP whatsoever, is at least trying to rush it around here. If you could take down the Forest Troll Shadow Priest, that would already be a great thing, because guess what? This spell is also pretty effective against summoned units, not only against Entangle, so if you have a couple of Spirit Wolves moving in, that Forest Troll Shadow Priest is going to be a pretty happy panda and is going to do his own thing. So right now, the start of the game, pretty solid for Walter. I'm not going to lie here. Early tech into the Great Hall. The Troll Headhunters are currently still in the base. One of the reasons why you initially at least want to keep them there is if they get too close to the Keeper, the Entangle and the resulting Focus Fire are going to take them out pretty quickly. So that's a few of those things that you have to really watch out for. But starting with an early level 2, with a creep on the camp, with a Potion of Greater Mana, buying the Forest Troll Shadow Priest, that's already a really, really solid start for Walter. And Snare on the Wisp here as he starts to move up. But we have also a bit of creeping started for the Orc player. Going straight down here to the Forest Troll Warlord on level 6. He's going to get a bit of experience for himself. Also going to try and, of course, get that item. Whereas up to the top, we have a Tomb of Strength. And let's see what the Orgamagi is going to drop for the Orc. Another set of Treants coming in, trying to soak up most of the damage with that. Parry of Vitality. Bigger hit point pool, always nice. There's better stuff they can drop, but that's not quite too shabby. So it's at least useful. Down here on the other hand, ooh, sexy. I like it. Sobi Mask drop. Okay. So a little bit faster mana regeneration. You can never have enough mana. That's basically the rule of thumb in WarCraft. Basically in every single game. But already the Entangle is gonna hit in a second. And there we go. And barely getting out. Look at that, by the way. Forest Troll Shadow Priest. So he got one. There's a couple more camps that we have on the map. He could also like get one over here. So he finally has that. And, well, it's good for him, because even if that bad boy dies, yeah, that's a bit of body blocking. He goes down, but he served his purpose. He literally died for the team. He saved the Farseer, and that's all that he had to do. But the second Entangle hits the Headhunter, and he has an attempt to deny the experience. Not quite sure if that even worked out for him. Another Entangle comes through. But losing the Forest Troll Shadow Priest always a bit of an issue. WarCraft 3, you have to be careful with body blocking. It can be fantastic. Let's say you have a hero with boots against a hero without boots. You're always going to be in a position where you can try and body block him into oblivion and allow the rest of your army to hit him. But in this case, it was literally the end of the Forest Troll Shadow Priest because he was body blocked there. Also, talking body blocks, there's a lot going on as we speak. Good healing wave. But it looks like this Headhunter is still falling. Yes, he is. Talking about body blocks. There they are. Another Headhunter about to go down. And guys, I'm not quite sure how to tell you this. This is not looking good for Pride. A base is already being built right over here. The Huntress are coming through. We have double Ancient of War. We have the tag into the Tree of Life. Walter's sitting on 38 supply against 31. Expansion on the way. He has a solid army here. A level 3 Keeper of the Groove. And as you can see, he already used the Potion of Greater Mana. As I said before, if you find that item, you can apply so much more pressure, which is exactly what he did. So you literally have to adapt a little bit in the way that you play once that you get those items and see if you can maybe capitalize on that. And that's exactly what Walter is doing here. We have finally a Shaman coming through, and he can at least be used to purge the Entangle, but it didn't really do too much. So double Forest Troll Shadow Priest, dispelling all the summons basically that the Orc can throw into the ring. Expansion here already completed, just now entangling the gold mine. The tag onto the Tree of Ages is more than halfway done, and things are looking pretty good for Walter. He's currently just getting the Potion of Less Invulnerability, is dropping the Scroll of Healing, is also getting the Scroll of Protection, another Entangle, and he is just sniping Headhunters left and right. Level 4 in his hands. That means Treants and Entangle are now both on level 4, and this is just absolutely Nightelf heaven. Yeah, the only thing that Orc can right now do is maybe sneak over to the Nightelf base and pee in the Moonwells. Outside of that, I don't think that he can do a lot to annoy him. He's trying though, but every single time he moves out of the base, he risks losing another unit to the Entangle. And Walter is just keeping him low. He's already scouting. He's like, well, there shouldn't really be any way that he build an expansion down here, but let's just double check, make sure that there is none. Sees the creeps, immediately moves away, and is now trying to contain the Orc as much as he can. The base up here has started mining. Tree of Ages has been hit. That means second hero, which we are seeing in a second. Alchemist needs to put him into the fight though. Forest Troll Shadow Priest goes down, and that's literally Pride just trying to make something happen here. Chain Lightning coming through. Second Forest Troll Shadow Priest is a goner, but the attempt to go for the Farseer here, nearly level 3 for him. Instead, it's the Shadow Hunter the focus shifts onto, gives over the town portal, and immediately TP's out. Shaman about to fall just as the TP is being used, and now we're even seeing Glaive Throwers coming into play because Walter's just simply saying like, yep, get a bit more damage from the backline in. Those bad boys do a lot of work, have a lot of range, and I can put even more pressure onto him. So right now we're seeing an Orc without basically any items. The only thing that he really has, he has a Scroll of Speed to try and rush away, and we're still having that Sobi Mass that of course was given over to the Shadow Hunter on level 2. But that being said, what exactly are you going to do right now? He has very little that he can, especially if he's captured. Here comes again the Scroll of Protection after the Treants are being summoned. Double Glaive Thrower in the back, and Walter is just absolutely executing Pride here right now. Chain Lightning comes through. Even the peons are thrown into the battle, but things are not looking pretty for Pride. Another few Hunters are about to fall, but so is the Farseer, barely getting the Soul of Speed out and moving away from this one. Alchemist already just racking through hit point pool on that bad boy. Makes it quite easy for him to go all the way up to the front here. And things are looking grim for Pride. Walter doesn't have to win the game here right now. He just has to completely starve him out, since he's running the double base against one base. And the hero levels are also, of course, very heavily favoring the Nightelf player. 4.5 Keeper already, but he's losing a fair amount of units right now. Level 2 on the Alchemist, but Pride is definitely not giving up. That Shaman, though, just splattering into a blood bubble. And that's the last time we've seen that guy. Now we still have the pressure onto those Orc Burrows, heavy armored as they are at this point, and those Glaive Throwers, they are taking down another one soon. 31 supply at this point against 50. Walter still in no upkeep, is getting the gold, and he is currently trying to create another bank account apparently. If he continues like this, he can definitely just harvest a little bit of the gold and put it into a Swiss bank account, at least with the double income that he has right now. Even more units coming in. If you can't build them enough, then buy them. Augur Mauler for the front. And Walter is just looking stellar in this game. He knows with all the scouting that he has that there is absolutely no additional income for his opponent. He's already going into the low upkeep right now, completely capitalizing on the space here. Looking into the main base, we see him on the Tree of Ages, not making any moves into Tree of Eternity just yet, but items are definitely ready for him. Scroll off, healing once again against the Chain Lightning, against the Arrow Effect damage, and a Potion of Lesser Invulnerability still in the inventory. Pride, on the other hand, he's not giving up here. He has his Farseer on 3, he has the Shadow Hunter on 2. He's trying to do what he can to somehow stay in this game, get a bit of a foothold, and maybe get a lucky punch in to drop some of these heroes. He has taken on a lot of the units of his opponent as well. The problem for him is simply that he does not have that expansion. It's the early game that was his biggest problem here, for sure, especially with all the Headhunters that he lost against the against the Ensnare. Obviously, it's better to lose a Headhunter than a Grunt. I mean, that's still a bit more experience and also from a cost perspective. But now he has to face off against an army that just heavily outnumbers his own. 39 supply against 60. And yep, with all those Glaive Throwers, I mean, just look at that arsenal here in the background. Even more coming in. It looks very, very unlikely that we're going to see the Orc prevail here. But then again, if you actually get into that backline with a couple of units, you might be able to drop those Glaive Throwers. They're not really the most beefy units. One down, second one about to fall. Those peons work. They're putting it in for sure. And trying to take at least a few of those down. Augur Mauler is also gone, but there's the GG as Pride realizes, well, this is not going to happen today. And we have Walter taking the 1-0 lead in the best of 3 series. Game number 2, everyone. We have Walter in the lead in the best of 3 series here at the semifinal. Up against Pride, starting to the top right here with his AKA Wolves. Down to the bottom left on Amazonia, our second map, we have Walter. And boy, did he wreck his opponent in the last game. Cross spawns, heavy pressure from the get-go, finds the Potion of Greater Mana, and is able to snipe one Headhunter after another with his ensnares, with his entangles, and that did just completely cripple the Orc way early in the game. The expansion of Walter and the tech doing a lot as well. Okay, so we're gonna find out how exactly Pride is gonna try and counter all of this. Yeah, the tactic in the last game, something that they still discuss, but once more, I still need to throw out that the items that Walter got definitely helped him in executing all of this. And yeah, Pride mentions that, well, items didn't really go in his favor, and he certainly has a point here. But let's see how he approaches game number 2. We're currently seeing the Farseer again as the number 1 hero here for him. Barracks on the way and down to the bottom of the map. What could it possibly be? Oh my god, it's a Keeper! Who would have thought? Yeah, so Keeper again. Don't know why that guy looks so grim. Probably because his beard is green. I mean, I would look pretty pissed too if my beard was green. would look a bit awkward. Like, I don't know about you. I mean, Malfurion has the same problem. It seems like all Night Elves always look like they're a little bit, there's like too much moss and everything, you know? It's like, probably doesn't smell good either. So yeah, that pissed off expression that we see on the face of the Keeper is probably easily explained by this. I mean, another explanation is that someone told him about the patch notes of the PTR patch, and he's just like, dude, what the hell? I just got a little bit of love here, and I'm currently insanely imba. I like this, and right now they're patching me out again. I don't think that's a great idea. But I mean, no matter why the Keeper is pissed off, he is back to business in time for the experience here. And let's see what we're going to get in terms of items. Renegade Wizard goes down, and that's the Claws attack plus 6 right here. So when it comes to creep in general, Night Elf, thanks to the AO engine of war creep, and also human thanks to militia, usually have a little bit of upper hand. And liking this, are immediately starting to go over and trying to make sure that those two wolves don't get purged out by the Renegade Wizard. So really just like splitting the forces. Gets the Claws of attack plus 6 as well, so even items on the two. Also, nice tomb for him, intelligence for Khadgar, no? Kaga! Okay, without the D. I was just like, wait a second, Khadgar is a human hero, like that doesn't really make all too much sense. So yeah, early tech already into the Great Hall pretty quickly. Oftentimes see that from Orc Undead as well, whereas we're seeing Hunter's Hall and Second Ancient of War again on the side of Walter. So pretty much running with a similar strategy to the last game. Doesn't have quite the item luck that he had in game number 1. To be honest with you, the items are actually a little bit better here for our Orc player, especially with the Mantle of Intelligence, but those entangles, they still hurt. There's a reason why you see a lot of Orcs keeping their units in the main base at the beginning. Second commitment here to the mana pool, taking the Orc down, the Grunt down eventually. Scroll of Speed has already been used too, and the only thing so far that he could get away with is put a bit of extra pressure onto that. Shadow Melt being used as well to save the Archer here, so that at least is a pretty sweet move. And nice, there comes the Scout with the Goblin Laboratory, and down goes the Archer. So a pretty cool move on the side of Pride, but he still needs to be really careful. Yes, of course, Entangles do a little bit more work against normal units, not so much against heroes, but at the same time, they're not immune to that either, so we need to be careful with that. One more Peon eliminated, as we're seeing the War Mill being constructed. And down to the bottom left, while we're having that harass happen, we just see still Tree of Life, and we have the Huntress being built now as well. But the Keeper has already suffered a little bit of damage. Mana pool is low too, so he needs to be a bit careful. Eventually, we're going to see him try and get that up again through the Moonwells. Now, Huntress here again, trying to get a little bit of vision. Still remember one of my first WarCraft games where I actually tried to attack the forest to take those out, because you can definitely shoot them away. For example, go in and use a worker for that, or attack with a... I tried to attack them with an Acolyte, I think. That's what I originally did in, yeah, good old times. I mean, it's a long time ago, but back then that was still quite funny. So now the switch into Headhunters that we're seeing with the War Mill coming in. Starting to build the first few of those. At least the early game is a little bit better here for Pride. There's no attempt to go into such an early expand on the side of Walter this time. He doesn't have that potion of greater mana for the time being. And is still committing though to a heavy focus into tier 1 units. And I mean, why not? Whenever you catch the Orc on the map, you can just simply overrun him with the units here. And you can force him into a fight with the Entangle. It's like one of the biggest things about the Keeper. You just drop the Entangle and you force the fight, or you just force him to lose some units. Now we're having a pretty early commitment here into the Chain Lightning on level 1 to drop those Hunters low a bit. Not quite sure if I'm sold on that, but then again, he already has that Clarity Potion that he uses. Not quite sure why he hates his... What? Huh, that looked like a misclick. But that would be a really weird misclick. For a second I thought it was maybe because he was like stuck on supply and he wanted to open up another supply spot. But I'm not quite sure why exactly he would execute that Peon right there. That Peon must have pissed off the Farseer immensely. Like, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I can only imagine the Peon was not really happy with his boss was walking past and was telling the Farseer that his wolf looks shit. And that's why the Peon had to be executed. I mean, something happened there. It might have been a misclick or something, but we're not quite sure what the reason for that is. Right now, we have 30 out of 30 supply, but we still see the Orc Burrow about to be completed. So, yeah, Tower and Totem this time, and that allows us to get the Spirit Walker. That's one of the changes, for example, too, that came in with the latest patches of WarCraft 3. And Tangle again on the Grunt. A little bit of counter pressure here, especially through those Serpent wards, but that Grunt is gonna fall no matter what. Grunt down, massive pressure from Walter. 36 against 29 supply right now. Another Entangle, Chain Lightning coming through, but that Keeper just being annoying. Annoying as hell. And also found another good item, Potion of Invulnerability, a full one. And guess what? Talking expansions, duh, we have another one down to the bottom. So he is currently making sure that he is also in a favorable position when it comes to income. But we at least have a little bit of Dispel happening. So with those Spirit Walkers coming in, you have some Dispel on your hands. We're seeing by now also Sentry Wards. First one already been dropped. That's at least a bit of vision that you have. Know when the Nightelf's coming, can play around that. But Walter is now creeping too. He's getting quite a bit of damage on those. He's getting quite damage on those Huntress, but he goes straight into the Moonstone here. Claws of Attack +6, second one, meaning that that Keeper is starting to hit pretty hard. Already on a +12. Having also level 4 on the Keeper is going to help with the pressure even more. And it's very likely that we're also going to see another Tavern Hero pretty soon. I mean, already the Wisp is in position. He's on the Tree of Ages, so he could add that hero whenever he has the resources, which is actually the case right now. And what do you know? We have an Alchemist again. Ezel Dark Brewer. Alright. Let's go, Ezel, and see what he can pull off. But creeping already on the left side. In terms of items, replenishment potion for him this time. Let's check out what the Orc is gonna get. A lot of healing stops, by the way, in the inventory, but he wants to get the Orc going first of all. Now, again, looking at the situation here, at least we're having a bit more of a situation in terms, oh, Potion of Greater Mana, it's good for him. But you can already tell every single time that the Orc player just sees a unit here, sees a Nightelf unit, the first thing that happens is he needs to get the hell out of it. Needs to get the hell out of dodge. Healing spray is being used to keep those Hunters in play. As I said before, they've been taking quite a bit of damage. So Walter wasn't quite positive that we should engage into that fight just yet. But he still wants to chase the Orc away. Level 3 Farseer for now, level 2 Shadowhunter. Things aren't really as bad as they could be. Game number 1, if you remember it, the Orc was very, very low in his experience the entire time. Lost way more units in the early game. If you're looking at the supply difference between the two right now, it's still there, but it's 9 supply. And that, of course, also doesn't really account for the army supply, because there's a little bit more down here in the expansion. It's just a matter of, does that Shadowhunter hit level 3 anytime soon? Can he maybe creep a little bit more, get that through a fight? If he is in a position where he, for example, has his Serpent Wards on level 2, he can do a lot of damage against those Hunters. And that's going to be a priority for him. Outside of that, there is still just that focus on tier 1 units right now. There's no real big commitment to anything else. We have a bit of upgrades that are currently spec'd into, but it's not like there's going to be an additional tech just yet. Eventually we're going to see that transition happen, but for the time being, it's just really the tier 1 units that he focuses on. Now Farseer should move away, and that's exactly what he does. So with a Farseer moving out of range, that experience here is only going to land on the Shadowhunter. It's not going to affect the Farseer, so the experience won't be split, and that's hugely important here. But the attack happens, item, Gauntlets of Ogre Strength, and the TP had to be used. Walter is playing this, oh my god. I was just about to say, Walter is playing this really well, and he also finds the Scourge Bone Chimes. Now, again, that Vampiric Aura that we're seeing here doesn't really do all too much for a lot of the units that are involved. Still helps out the Treants and helps out the Augur Mauler, but it also helps out the Alchemist. And if the Alchemist with the Camel Garage later on starts moving in here with Life Leech as well, the increased attack and movement speed, that gives him a lot of sustain. And we already commentated a bit earlier. Ooh, look at that, flying sheep. We already commentated earlier about how tanky that bastard is in the first place, so that is going to emphasize that even more. Tiny Great Hall is being built here, with him being on Fortress on the tier 3 tech, so double Torrent Totem for now, and still looking for experience. But of course, Walter already creeped most of it up here. So that was one of the cool things from when you look at creep routes, right? When you look at what Walter did, Walter knew that he had the early game. Like in the early game, his army was stronger. He could force fights around the Keeper. So he actually tried to creep the spots of his opponent and is now focusing his own down here. So it was really nice use of the control that he had over the map in the early game, because he knew that Pride would be very reluctant to engage into a fight. So he tried to take a couple of those important camps away. Now with the one tagging onto the bot right, Boots of Khaldor doesn't really do too much. He's 6 on agility, adds a bit of armor for those heroes. That's a plus, but it doesn't really do much outside of that. That, on the other hand, is something that you should still take. Okay, leaves the mantle there. Not quite sure if that was intentional. I'm curious to see if he picks up on that he forgot that or not. For now, he doesn't. Seems to me a little bit that he was worried that there's an attack coming his way, but the Wolves are already scouting, sees what's going on. Alchemist is on level 3, Keeper 4.5, and that Keeper, Scroll of Healing and Scroll of Protection. So right now we're just seeing Pride trying to hold that position. He knows that there is going to be an attack happening pretty soon, especially now with the Sentry Ward still scouting this out. He knows what's coming. Double Torrent already being used. And this is basically, this is what we can probably call this formation the fuck off Nightelf formation. We're just trying to make sure that no Nightelf is gonna get close to you. Again, piercing damage against unarmored units, that's what we talked about earlier. Attack and armor types, and especially Huntress, being unarmored, even with the 2-1 upgrades, suffer a lot from piercing damage. A lot of damage through piercing damage. So that's one of the main reasons why we're talking the entire time about a Shadow Hunter and his potential level 2 on the Serpent Ward, so a level 3. So you need to be a bit careful around that. Yeah, already another item being bought here, and it's just healing scrolls galore. At this point, you really know Walter wants to crush Pride. And he has 12 supply more. That's not insignificant. Especially since that Shadowhunter still doesn't have level 2 Serpent Wards. So there's more Tauren that are slowly starting to move in here. 0 upgrades, by the way, on those. We're seeing at least, I mean... It's not, okay, here it is. Research are starting into armor, but here comes the attack. And with all the scrolls that he has, this is going to be tough to do. Already Spirit Link being cast by those Spirit Walkers and the Shadowhunter with the heal. Scroll of Protection being used. This spell comes in. Important move here immediately, but can you keep those Tauren alive in the long run? That's the big question. Once again, a quick Chain Lightning coming through, taking the Augur Mauler down, but one of the Taurens is already about to fall. Level 3 has those potions of mana. Already used the potion of greater mana. Gets the healing wave through one after another, but the pressure is there. Those Hunters doing work. No Serpent Wards on the floor as we speak. Level 5 Keeper of the Grove in the upgrade, and Walter is still on 67 supply against 38 for Pride. Also another upgrade for the Alchemist here, and that Farseer is in trouble. Trying to rush away here, goes down. That's the death of the first hero, and the second one is about to fall to the GG call as Pride forfeits the game and loses 0-2 against Walter, who now approaches the grand final of the GenozCup.